I will not support anyone who supports and funds genocide.
Then you're going to be the reason Trump gets reelected and then all your rights will be taken away.
I will not support anyone who supports and funds genocide.
Well, when the Republicans get in office, they're going to go ahead and make this back to Jim Crow South, and Black people won't have any rights.
I will not support anyone who supports and funds genocide.
I understand. I am anti-genocide too, but it would be way worse if anyone else was in the office that isn't blue.
I will not support anyone who supports and funds genocide.
You think the Republicans won't kill Palestinians? They'll kill more.
I will not support anyone who supports and funds genocide.
We need to think about us and only us in this country. You think they'd care about you?
Oh, for the love of God, I will not support anyone who supports and funds genocide.
They brought this on themselves. You're just anti-Semitic.
I'm still not supporting anyone who supports and funds genocide.
Legal to show it and or talk about it. Ladies and gentlemen, my DNA. Now you might ask yourself, why is it illegal to obtain this in the state of Israel? Because it proves through your DNA that Jews around the world have no ancestral ties to the land of Israel.
I mean, duh. It doesn't take a PhD or an article from a Jewish newspaper to tell you that Caucasians practicing a religion aren't native to a place where people have been brown for millennia.
This TikTok caused a storm online, with many debating what his results, which show no trace of being from Palestine or the Middle East, despite being Jewish, mean. Yet, in the state of Israel, getting hold of a genealogical DNA test is highly restricted. Yet Dov Aharonov and the Jerusalem Post reported in 2019 that Israel's genetic information law blocks people from buying them from local pharmacies.
I guess boomer Zionists think that if you just throw enough money at troll farms and you don't let people Google 23andMe in Israel, that they'll forget that they're not Middle Eastern. Like, it's not Jesus of Williamsburg, it's Jesus of Nazareth, right? I mean, that's fine. Like, there are dark Jews. There's Jews from Brazil, there's Jews from Ethiopia, and up until the 19th century, everybody was living in Palestine pretty peacefully. Well, I guess until the Nakba, when they got displaced or killed alongside the Muslims and the Christians. I guess even back then, in the middle of the desert, if you have a brown neighbor, I guess property values go down. I don't make the rules, but they sure as hell are racist as So then, if Caucasian Jews don't come from the Middle East, where do they come from? I do not want to be called anti-Semitic, even if I've got Harvard in the background. So I'm just going to let another Ashkenazi geneticist tell you where you come from.
Surprisingly, GPS took us to northeastern Turkey. At first, we did not understand the results, but when we looked at some old books, we found 4 ancient villages named Ishkenaz, Eskenaz, Ashenaz, and Ashkuz, names that may be derived from the word Ashkenaz. This place resides on a hub of trade networks. This is where Silk Roads and other trade routes converge.
That's Aaron Hayek. He's a Jewish geneticist from Johns Hopkins who wanted to figure out where Caucasian Jews come from because, like map out genome, get ahead of diseases. His contact in Israel is Dr. Aurelia Oppenheim. She's a geneticist in the University of Jerusalem, and she runs the anti-aging department. And for a while, the government called both of these two Nazis. Would you like to know why? Because they both figured out where Caucasian Jews come from. Wink, wink. They're 40% Turkish, and newsflash, 40% Mongolian. As if the lactose intolerance didn't give it away. Like, hold on. Do you understand what this means? Like, okay, sure. Like, you don't have any ancestral tie to Israel, but like you don't have yellow fever. You're just dating your own race. Like real talk. What do you see in this picture? Like, is it a pierogi or is it a dumpling? Like, you say gefilte fish, I just see fish balls without the soup. Like, brother!
Mr. Bobulinski, I heard your opening statement. It's submitted to the record, part of our proceedings. I have a quick question. Simple. Is it your testimony today that you personally witnessed President Joe Biden commit a crime?
I believe the fact that he was sitting with me while I was putting together a business
Did you
deal,
witness the president commit a crime? Is it your testimony today?
Yes.
And what crime do you have you witnessed?
How much time do I have to go through it?
It is simple. You name the crime. Did you watch him steal something?
Corruption statutes, RICO and
What
conspiracy.
is it? What is the crime, sir?
You
Specifically.
you asked me to answer the question. I answered the question.
No.
RICO, you're obviously not familiar with. Corruption
Excuse me,
statutes,
sir. Excuse me,
FARA.
sir. Excuse me, sir. RICO is not a crime. It is a category. What is
It's
the
a category of crimes that you're then charged
You
under
have charges.
a long 100
You
list
have
of statutes.
charges. Sir,
You want
please
me to name the exact statute under RICO?
Yes.
Well, it's funny. In this committee room, everyone's not here. There's over 18
All right, sir. I reclaim my time.
lawyers that
I
went to
reclaim
law
my
school.
time. I
I'll leave
reclaim
it
my
up to
time.
you guys
Okay,
to
thank
define
you,
the
sir. I
statutes
reclaim my
under
time.
RICO.
Clearly, what we are seeing here today is a continuation of the 15-month saga of the Republican majority lost in the desert. Impeachment 101. The majority party or whomever is raising impeachment must accuse the president of a high crime, a specific high crime or misdemeanor. I would like to submit to the record HRES 918, the House resolution to open this impeachment inquiry.
Without objection to order.
This resolution does not outline a high crime or misdemeanor. It's not here. Now,
welcome to a Friday edition of Straight Outta Politics. I'm your host for today. I'm CJ. This person we know as Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, formerly known as Sandy, reportedly a former waitress turned fierce fighter of the revolution. This is where we are with her now. When have you seen Sandy in any committee question anyone in this manner that has to do with war, that has to do with Palestine, that has to do with $15 minimum wage? This is the deal that Social Democrats have to make in order to not be completely removed from the ability to even be part of a committee. It's like, listen, AOC, this is Nancy Pelosi. Listen, we're going to go ahead and give you a committee seat, but that Iron Dome vote, that got to go. We're going to go ahead and give you this committee seat, but we need to see that you're on our team. We need to see publicly that you're on our team. This is that display. And I was talking about this, I think, last week with Pramila Jayapal, and she did a similar thing. We're in a committee hearing. She does go all out for Hunter Biden. That one I think was for Hunter Biden. And she did such a good job that Wolf Blitzer brought her on. They use these Social Democrats as props so they can go, look, even the radical left is down with some of these State Department, CIA talking points. And that's how Bernie Sanders and AOC, to a lesser degree, Rokana and Pramila Jayapal, because I just don't think they have the same progressive bona fides, but this is the deal they make. They have to, at certain points, that to us, to people that follow them, to people that that they say align with their policy, we're scratching our heads like, what does this have to do with the struggle? What does this have to do with the movement? This has nothing. This is her paying her dues to be able to remain an establishment shield and throw a few virtue signaling crumbs out in the forms of tweet or legislation, like her and Bernie Sanders just introduced. Legislation, when they introduce legislation when it has zero chance of doing anything, when they introduce legislation when they're not in power, they seem to come up with all these great ideas when they're not in power. That's social democrats. And this is just a display, yet another display. I put this up there with the relational harm argument. I put this up there with some of her most egregious sort of word salads. And she tried to double down. I'll get to her tweet in a second. She tried to double down on this because what she can't do is say, fuck, I made a boo-boo and I said something wrong. In this red-blue game, you can never do that. You just need to go and talk to your people and come back with a more nuanced talking point that encompasses your bad take. And that's what we're seeing with AOC in the tweet that I'm going to show you in just a second. Actually, let me see what I have next to show you in this particular part. I need to put my T somewhere here where it doesn't get in the way. But let's bring this down. I might play that one more time.
Mr.
Oh yeah, let me pause this
I-
actually. Otherwise it'll play in the background.
Heard your
So here's her tweet. So what's his? So let me go back. I hate when it does that. Let me go back. So Ted Cruz, let's just do it here, and you see how I labored her in my bookmarks. AOC, the court jester. That could actually be the name of this segment too. But here's Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz, of all people, with the ability, because she's created the lane of, with her foolish comments, that somehow RICO is not a crime. Wow. I'm sure a lot of mafia dons would love to hear that. So, I mean, anyway, Ted Cruz, of course, and her and Ted Cruz play up the red-blue game. Her and Ted Cruz, they both are playing a role for their side, and they each of them knows what the other person is doing. I don't really hate AOC. This is Ted Cruz. I don't really hate her, but I understand that I must engage in her in this way in order to stir up, really stir up loyalty and showing that I'm going after the other side. That's what they're engaging in here. This is Ted Cruz. He says, this is bizarre. Hang on, let me make sure my sound is good. He says, this is bizarre. RICO, the Racketeer Influenced in Corporate Organization Act, 18 USC 1961, 1968 is most absurdly a crime. I'm sorry, assuredly a crime. It often results in massive felony sentences, and yet AOC, eager to defend Joe Biden, insists it's not a crime. And here's AOC's reaction, and this is what I was saying, her reply. Did I go too far back? Yeah, I meant to hit this. I guess I did do that. This is her reply. So she replies to the backlash by replying to Ted Cruz, because this is where the payoff. She sees payoff in replying to her nonsense. The only payoff she sees in replying to anybody after she's caught looking like a buffoon is replying in the red-blue game, in the red-blue arena. And this is where she replies. She says, wrong, she's speaking to Ted Cruz. RICO is a statute under which specific crimes may be considered. Kidnapping, robbery, arson. How about conspiracy? Because with the mob, for example, none of the bosses are charged with kidnapping, robbery, or arson. They're not charged with that, AOC. They're not charged with the murdering of anybody. They're not charged with stealing of merchandise, garments from the garment. They're not charged with any of that. They're far away from that. And then she says, you need to name the crimes in order to substantiate RICO. It's conspiracy when we're talking about the top person at the top. When we're talking about the person at the top, AOC. So since you're the expert, what RICO crimes and evidence does House GOP have? Since they don't seem to know. AOC is acting like the defenders of a mob boss. That's what AOC is playing a role right now. She's acting as a defender saying, what has my client done, though? You're naming all this stuff, his brother, his son, but what about my client? That's what AOC is acting like. So let me just bring this down. I'm gonna put this headline up before I go back to some of the other parts of the presentation, some other receipts here. Let's bring this headline up because it fits with the role she's playing right now. AOC brags about her transformation into a loyal agent of U.S. imperialism. This is end of last year, August last year. I covered this story. But this headline so explains the last several months of AOC. From remember the State of the Union, and she had these glowing remarks. This was last year. The State of the Union she had. And several instances where she appeared on CNN and or MSNBC to defend Joe Biden or his administration on a particular policy, or to give him cover against the left. Do you understand that? AOC is the person holding the shield in front of Joe Biden, shielding Joe Biden from the left, shielding Joe Biden from a non-establishment. That's the role AOC plays. But anyway, I can read a little bit from this article just so to refresh people's memory. And the what is that? Prostration. So I'm gonna say prostration, but I do want to know what this word is. So let me read this. I think I had to look this word up last time. And did not remember the state of lying stretch. Oh, wow. Wow. The state of lying stretched out on the ground with one's face down forward. The prostration. That is now that's funny. That's funny. All right. So the prostration of the DSA Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez to the Democratic Party and Biden administration was on display yet again in an interview published Wednesday by the New York Times. The interview titled "The Evolution of AOC," and if you remember, that's the exact title. If you look it up, look up our video content on this particular article, that's the same title. So just go RBN or Revolutionary Blackout on YouTube and type in "The Evolution of AOC," and that's the clip. If you want to get our analysis on this particular article at the time it came out. But let me continue. In the interview titled "The Evolution of AOC," was conducted to give AOC a platform to defend herself from what she called a growing suspicion among workers and young people that she is nothing but a standard Democratic Party politician. Her weak attempts to justify her right-wing role in Congress only confirm those suspicions are correct. And here's a quote. Do you see yourself, from the article that is, do you see yourself as more of an insider now, end quote, as Time interviewer? And she replied with, I don't think so. I mean, on a certain level, once you are engaged as a legislator, you are in the inside, AOC replied, adding that being on the inside allows her to translate this outside energy into internal change. Has that happened, AOC? It hasn't, but what has happened is your transformation into a loyalist agent of the U.S. imperialist core. That is what it has done for AOC. Now let's get back to some of these another video, because the video in Congress is not the only video that AOC has been out on AOC in the last couple of days. So you have this video from Congress, and I'm going to show you guys those little cartoon videos I found. So you have this video from Congress, but then you also have this video from oh, they're right here on the screen. Justice Democrats. And this is what, and I'm going to get to Sabi's reply. This is what the Justice Democrats said. AOC has long been raising the alarm about AIPAC's threat to our democracy, and she's joining voters across the country to call on Democrats. I got to pop up. I know you can't see it, but I can. Democrats to reject AIPAC once and for all. Now, the Reject AIPAC it's a supposed movement of social democrats, progressive Democrats who are trying to make a stand and create some sort of movement against AIPAC. Because AIPAC is coming directly at them. And then it goes on to say, there's no room for anti-abortion insurrectionist super PAC in the Democratic Party. Now, here's what's funny. Reject AIPAC is saying we should reject the influence and the money of AIPAC. At the same time, all of the squad and all of the so-called progressives fell right behind one of the top recipients of AIPAC money, which is Hakeem Jeffries. How can both of those things happen, AOC? How is that possible? And that is the critique. But let's listen just for the video. The video is not the point. The point is the progressives having to do this while at the same time indirectly supporting AIPAC by supporting the candidate that is the second top recipient of money from AIPAC. Let's see, I might have to refresh it. Sure. I will. So I'll refresh it and then play it. Okay, so let's see. It should play now. Let's listen to AOC. I think it's a little over 60 seconds, but let's listen. Or yeah, almost 2 minutes. Let's listen and pop up. Here we go.
No, I don't accept AIPAC money. In fact, I have joined an effort called Reject AIPAC, which is a fundraising effort by the organization Justice Democrats, as well as several others, to try to take on the influence of AIPAC this election cycle. Not only does AIPAC threaten me? AIPAC threatens anybody who believes in human rights for Palestinians. So have they threatened me? Of course they have. They've threatened me. They've threatened Rashida Tlaib. They threaten everybody. They've threatened Jamal Bowman. They've threatened all of us. It's very public and very well known that AIPAC has committed $100 million to try to defeat all of us and ensure that we do not win re-election, which, by the way, AIPAC has endorsed and supports over 100 insurrectionist members of Congress. That is Republicans that tried to overturn the election on January 6th.
Why isn't she mentioning that they support Hakeem Jeffries? Why aren't you mentioning that, AOC? That's weird. That's kind of weird.
AIPAC supports their re-election too. And I think that, to me, tells the whole story, that this is an organization that does not support American democracy, and in our commitment to take on authoritarianism, here and abroad, and fascism here at home and globally, we have to make sure that we are confronting the scourge of these organizations that try to overturn the will of the people by putting in big money into elections, and also try to organize against the constituencies that actually elect people who stand up for human rights and democracy globally.
So if you didn't pay attention in the beginning, Reject APAC is not some sort of movement to get all of the Democratic Party to stop taking money from APAC. Oh no. Reject APAC is a fundraising movement. Is a fundraising campaign. I shouldn't say movement. That's what Reject APAC is. Okay? Let's get down to some other reaction here. And I'm going to go all the way down here. Now, this video you just saw with AOC, here is Sabby making the point. Hakeem Jeffries had a trip to Israel funded by AIPAC. Richie Torres is funded by AIPAC. Biden has taken over $4 million from the lobby throughout his career. And yet AOC is pretending like AIPAC only funds Republicans. This is a game. And with that said, if we recall this, let me see if I can quickly bring it up. Everybody, now we covered this before, but this video by Ali Velshi, and I'm not going to play the whole video, but I do want to fast forward to the people because he goes through a list. Let me see if the video catches up here. It may not. Because what Ali Velshi, say his name wrong. What Ali Velshi does is talk about who's funding. I'm sorry, who are the top recipients from AIPAC's money. And let me play it a little bit.
Calls itself America's pro-Israel lobby. And according
now, let me see if it'll let me fast forward here. Okay, these names here. Now, so AOC is pretending as if now you have to understand what she's trying to do. That was a sales pitch. That's her being sort of a sponsor for what the fundraising campaign is trying to do with the Justice Democrats. So what she's marketing is not to us, because you might be thinking, why is she bringing up AIPAC funding supposed election deniers, or however she describes them. Now, that's the audience. That's not us. What audience would that appeal to? What audience would that land and be like, what? AIPAC is supporting people that's against our democracy? Who would that land to? That's who they're trying to target to get this money. They know they're not going to get us because we're going to call out what they're doing. And you saw that in Sabby's tweet. It's like, wait a minute, you can't talk about some reject AIPAC when it comes to you winning your seat. But when it comes to everybody else in the Democratic Party, you have nothing to say about rejecting AIPAC. This list right here shows the top donors. On the left side, there's two columns. On the left side, 10 names. On the right side, 10 names. Left side, if you recall this, I did this segment last week. 9 out of the 10 are Democrats here on the left side. 9 out of the 10. Let me see if I can read. It has some people like Haley Stevens, Stephen Irwin, Elaine Lura, Valerie F., Josh Gottenheimer. So it names people. So 9 out of the 10 on the left column is all Democrats. 5 out of the 10, so half on the right column. So if you add that together, 14 out of the top 20 recipients are Democrats. Democrats have an apex problem that AOC is not speaking about because it's not about AIPAC. It's about AIPAC. It's about saving the progressives' ass in their seats. That's what this is about. It's not more broadly about AIPAC. It's about this sliver about AIPAC. Help us combat the 100 million that they're about to spend against us. So obviously, RBN would say, do not donate to reject AIPAC. Of course not. Of course not. Let's go back. Let's go back to the presentation. I only meant this stream to be about 60 to 75 minutes, and I'm trying to keep it in there. So let's go to a couple of other receipts here on AOC. There might not be receipts. Yeah, just some headlines here and some funny videos. So we read what AOC says. We read the Justice Democrats tweet. Here's the Sunrise Movement. Now, remember earlier I told you about legislation that Bernie and AOC and other progressives are introducing when they introduce legislation when they're not in power? Because they have no they have no plans for this legislation to go anywhere. This is a messaging bill. It's so they can go, look, I wrote a bill that did this. You mean a bill that never was going anywhere when your party was out of power? But this is just the Sunrise Movement talking about the Green New Deal for public housing. The rent is too high. So what do Social Democrats do? They're good because they're professional managerial class. Remember, so they go to school, they know how to study. And they study, well, what's going on? Oh, housing. So let's virtue signal housing. And this is what good Bernie Sanders is always being ahead of the curve on what to virtue signal about. He's good at that. And this is just another one. But anyway, and that's them announcing it. That's the AOC is not a crime. I thought this was funny. When I was looking up AOC to prepare for the story, I found this video. It's just a funny video. It's from a conservative group, but I thought it was funny. Let's listen.
Good morning, everyone. I'm a bartender. And I'm pretending to be president. We have some breaking news coming out of, like, America. That's right next to the USA. And it's, like, totally right around the corner from the United States. Oh, damn it. I think I might have left the weed whacker on again. This is an important message for, like, the universe. We just received word from etchasketch.com that millions of genetically modified Mallories have been released into Florida. Oh, hang on. Getting a call on my burner phone. Hello? Hi, this is John Solomon. Who the hell is John Solomon? Hey, how'd you get this number? Come on, guys. This is, like, totally serious. Yeah, I mean, a single bite from one of these genetically modified Mallories and you'll never be the same again. Just ask Michael J. Fox. Oh, come on, man. You don't even know what affirmative action is. My fiancé has red hair. This just in. Genetically modified Mallories have been spotted in downtown Action Florida. 9's John Fetterman is on the scene. Hi, John! Hey, you guys! John, what's going on down there?
This is the funny part.
Wow, is, like, everyone okay? You right? Oh, man, this is horrible. Are there any survivors? Where is my automobile? It was horrible.
Yeah, I think they came from Russia.
There were Mallories flying all over the place.
One landed on my shoulder. I pissed my pants and forgot who I was for 10 minutes.
I had one land on my head. Could say I was wearing a mask.
True story.
This is truly Sergeant Day in American history. We're like total.
And they always have, because I saved some other ones. I'm not gonna play them, but they always have Nancy Pelosi with, like, a huge, like, speech impediment in these clips. It's so hilarious. But I just thought I wanted to insert some humor. There's a couple of more reaction. AOC pretended to be against AIPAC after voting for AIPAC's funded candidates is some next level gaslighting with piss poor acting skills. That's a great tweet. And this is just a headline. We're going to read it. This is from the Gateway Pundit. Social media users light up AOC after she doubles down on her claims RICO is not a crime. So, yeah, and then here's another headline. Just talking about AOC and Bernie Sanders trying to introduce this housing bill, and of course the Guardian, Common Dream outlets like this always help to greenwash, whitewash, socialist wash Bernie Sanders and AOC. All right, I think that's the last receipt I had. And just some more headlines. This is from the New York Post. AOC progressives revive $234 billion Green New Deal for housing. So this is not an old idea, by the way. I thought this one was funny. Let me make sure I close out this segment. This is the last one on this segment. And I read this, the headline, which AOC brags about her transformation into a loyal agent. Now let's get into a little bit of fun before I get to the one of the main stories, which is the Candace Owens story. That is next. But let me just play this. This is the two Gen Z dudes that do a lot of pro-Biden stuff that getting paid by the DNC. This is a video that the conservative group made about them and some others. Let's listen. Let's watch just a little bit of it.
All right, guys. Lights, camera, bullshit. Wow, the Republican Party sucks.
Lights, camera, bullshit.
Butt munchers. Donald Trump is a fraud.
Yeah, and we don't even get paid for this.
Yeah, the DNC doesn't even pay us. Nope. What was wrong with that?
The DNC does pay you.
Yeah, I forgot. I'll delete it.
And action.
We don't like Republicans.
No, you guys suck.
You'll never be like President O'Biden.
Never.
President O'Biden is like the best.
Yeah, he saved America. Vote for O'Biden.
So obviously these are badly done. They're not like anything, you know, no Kevin Hart level of comedy. But I'm sure amongst their base, these are hilarious videos. Listen to this speech impediment on Nancy Pelosi on this video. It's hilarious.
All right, guys, we called you here today because we need to come up with a new way to indict Donald Trump. Any ideas? Yeah, I got one. Well, let's hear it, Hillary. What if we indict him for Russia? We already did that. Yeah, and it didn't work. What if we invite him to a party? AOC, we're not inviting him. You know what? Never mind. Well, we better do something soon or I'm going to leave New York and move to America. Hey! What if we indict him for Stormy Daniels? We did that already. Well, can we do it again? No, we can't do it again. Come on, guys. We need some fresh ideas. Well, what if I indicted him for smoking crack on a laptop? We're talking about Trump, Joe,
That's
not
funny.
Hunter.
All right, so that was it. Just a little funny little thing before we get to this next story. But I'm gonna read a couple of super chats here before we get into this final story. These are funny videos. I'll shout out the name of if you want to go view them. Let's see who they're called. They're the United Spot. The United Spot. Let me make sure. Yeah, the United Spot _ So if you want to go watch all of their videos, that's all they do is make these little, conservative leaning videos. But you can go check those out if you're on Twitter. I don't know if they could be on other platforms, but if you're on Twitter and you want to go check it out, please do. We're gonna go into the Candace Owens story, and I guess I'll start with this here. Will this graphic show pretty big? So I'll start here with this graphic. This is for the next story, but let me read some super chats next before I get into this final story. Hit that like button. We need to get to 800 likes. What I've noticed, and I'm the operations guy at RBN, so that's why I know these numbers. I've noticed when we get to at least 800. Now, if you go watch any other video, and if you see a video that has 800, that video typically is in the 800 likes. That video is typically in the range of 20 to 35,000 views. The way you know we're suppressed, in order for us to reach maybe 6,000 views, we got to get 800. But you'll see the same number of likes on mostly any other video. And it's extraordinary how we're being suppressed based on that. So hit that like button, get us to 800. Let's read this super chat. We got 2 super chats. This first one from Janice, a regular. Thank you for the super chat. Only way I would consider donating to Reject AIPAC movement would be if there was a legislative action requiring AIPAC, J Street, and all who receive donations from them to register as foreign agents. That is a freaking good idea, or maybe I say counter proposal to the Reject AIPAC movement. That's not at all what they're doing, of course. Janice, but that is a great idea and proposal. Here's another regular, John Freese. AOC is the product of academia, the Democrats, and liberal humanism. That makes her inherently elitist. That is a spot-on critique, because the pairing of academia along with liberal humanism, to me, gets you there. To me, those two pairings absolutely get you there. So let's get to this next story, because I want to keep this at about 75 minutes or under the stream. Keep the stream a little shorter. If you are a fan of Candace Owens, and we could have fans of Candace Owens here, because we have a conservative audience. I mean, we have part of our audience is conservative. It makes up about 33% of the people who watch us, because we did a poll. This was a while ago. Maybe we should do an update. Did a poll about a while ago, but it's about, no, it wasn't 33. Was it 33%? Yeah, it could be somewhere 25 to 30% of our viewers would label themselves conservative. So we have those people. So this segment may not make you happy. I do believe in redemption for people, and a lot of this comes up a lot when we're talking about Peter Dow. I do believe in the redemption of people. For example, like if somebody, I don't even know what I could say. Let's say somebody stole something. Let's say this person was a armed robber. Let's say this person was a criminal of the sorts of stealing. I'm just trying to come up with a name, but stealing is their crime. It's okay to go, this person has changed their life, and now you do not steal. You know, please do not judge me in that way. That's fine. But what's not fine is to now give that person power, influence in said area that they were on the opposite side of. For example, Peter Dow was on the side of Hillary Clinton and the Democratic Shield and the Imperial. So it's fine that he's redeemed. Be part of the rank and file. What's not fine is putting him part of a campaign. That's the part that's not fine, not the redemption part. So Candace Owens could have been redeemed. The problem is she's not, but some people have reacted to my tweet, for example, like she's redeemed. You know, and she hasn't, because some of these crazy shit that she's been saying is not in the past. But if you hadn't heard, Candace Owens and the Daily Wire, I'm referring it to it this way, part ways. It was first reported that she was fired, let go, that type of language. But now people are more talking about in the sense that it was like a mutual agreement, or at least if it wasn't mutual, it was accepted. It was some sort of agreement to get out of the contract, maybe, or something like that. We don't have the details yet. So she's parted ways, and this is the upward. Now, let me just say this part. I feel like Candace Owens is modeling herself after Tucker Carlson, and watching what Tucker Carlson, just like Tucker Carlson was able to whitewash himself from his anchorship on Fox News to where he is now. He's some sort of seen as some sort of like anti-establishment person. The fucking heir to the Swanson heir is a fucking the person who wanted to join the CIA is now some sort of non-establishment person because he has good takes on a couple of things. So she sees what he's doing, and she's built a following enough. She's like, what do I need the Daily Wire for? Why couldn't I just go to Twitter and get a deal with Twitter? I'm sorry, yeah, Twitter or X, what they call X now. Why couldn't I just go off on my own, like breaking points, and do my own shit and had the money come directly to me? So I see this as she's wanting, like, this, she's wanting to leave. Like, this is making her look like some sort of martyr, like some sort of hero. So transitioning, and the same thing happened to Tucker Carlson, transitioning from where she was to a new place, she's using this as a, like, her hero transition into this new space. And we'll see her go on a tour, media tour, where she's telling people what her new platform and what she's going to be doing. I'm sure she'll be doing that. But let's get into some of the details. I'll just read. Breaking: Candace Owens and the Daily Wire part ways. It seems the Daily Wire only believes one type of speech, and it certainly isn't free speech. So the angle is that what's being said is that she has been advocating for Palestinian rights, or at least against spending money and doing all of this military endeavors with the Israel. She's against that. And you know this public spat she has with Ben Shapiro. We covered it here. It was a while ago, but we've covered it here. Now let's start with this. Let's go to this next part. This is Glenn Greenwald. Now, I was going to play part of Breaking Points also, but he clipped it out and gave it a great description, a better description than I would have. So let's read what he says here. Listen to Sager's commentary today on the Daily Wire's separation from Candace Owens and what it says about free speech, cancel culture, and the institutional American right. Sager, remember, is like part of the Tucker Carlson, the Candace Owens, the against the American institutional right, and Ben Shapiro is like still part of the institutional right. So and then he said Sager got his start with that faction and understands how it works quite well. So let's listen to what Sager says as an intro to this conversation.
So as you can see, I mean, this has been a major source of tension inside the Daily Wire now for months and months and months. And I think, look, what can we learn about this? I mean, first and foremost, it's a little bit hilarious, right? That this is what led to the departure over at the Daily Wire. Like Candace, look, whether you like her or not, she said a lot of things. She said a lot of controversial. She actually just did a whole segment about Brigitte Macron perhaps being a male. I haven't watched it. I haven't looked into it, just to be clear. So I don't know the merits or whatever that. But my point is that all of that.
Yeah. So this is what I mean. So this person who has a decent outlook or take or framing on the Palestinian genocide also, so she puts out that content based, right? Or some people might say based. I wouldn't, but some people might say based. Palestinian, she's good. And then immediately she pivots to culture war nonsense, where she actually puts out content. I was going to play it, but I'm trying to keep this concise. She actually puts out a video where she's talking about somebody who she believes, who we see as a female, and I don't mean transition to a female. Like, we think this person, this is a female. She's saying she believes this female has been living, is really a male, and is a male for 30 years that she's been pulling this off. That's her. And now he's going to say the name of the person. So I'm going to rewind it a little bit just so you can look it up for reference if you want to know. But listen to the name of the person that he mentions Candace Owens does another video on.
Macron perhaps being a male. I haven't watched it. I haven't looked into it.
Oh, sorry. I didn't go back far enough.
Just did a whole segment about Brigitte Macron perhaps being a...
Brigitte Macron. That's the name of the person, is saying she has content out where she's saying this is probably a male. And it's serious content. She's not joking.
A male. I haven't watched it. I haven't looked into it, just to be clear. So I don't know the merits or whatever that. But my point is that all of that was fine. And that never kicked up a hornet's nest. It was only when she started critiquing Israeli war strategy in Gaza and talking about civilian casualties did all of this come to the surface. And frankly, saying what I think are principled and more, or at the very least, principled within her framework of looking at war at Ukraine and at Israel, adopting an America First strategy. It was only that, clinging to that, which led to basically the breakup between her and this major company. And I think that we can learn quite a bit from that. I mean, there's so much to say, right? First of all, the ADL. I mean, Ben Shapiro himself has gone after the ADL. I've seen innumerable Daily Wire segments about the ADL, Censorious, and all that. And yet they're, parting ways with her immediately after the ADL, incorrectly, by the way, guilt by association smears her. It says, so-and-so is praising so-and-so. So you can't control that. If you want to attack somebody, then attack what they specifically said. They're using guilt by association. Now, we don't know, again, what the exact thing that led to the breakage between them. But prior to this, there had been not one single ounce of consternation from Daily Wire leadership, from Candace Owens. She previously had talked about how she had a good relationship inside of the company. And look, we all know it's because of Israel. And that's crazy. It's crazy that Candace Owens, who is a conservative commentator, who is working for an organization which was supposedly founded on the bedrock of free speech, speaking your mind, saying facts aren't facts. What is it? Facts aren't your feelings, something like that. And by sticking to what she believes in, she is effectively out of a job. And this is an organization, the Daily Wire, which honestly, I don't think they can come back from this. I'm not saying that they won't be successful and all that. Listen, I don't doubt, from a business perspective, can't help but respect it. But from a principle perspective, I think a lot of people are going to remember this. A lot of people are going to see kind of the double talk around cancel culture and free speech and what are real red lines and what aren't red lines. This has been a very, very revealing episode in the last 6-7 months or whatever, since October 7th. And this is just the latest casualty here in America. But I think the rift actually does tell you a lot about when you're in the institutional right, what you're allowed to talk about, what you're allowed not to. Never been happy.
When you're in the institutional right, what you are allowed to talk about. That's what Sagar was commenting on. So apparently, the same applies on the right as does the left. There's just certain topics you have to be in line with the establishment on, period. This is one of them, apparently. Now, let's go to my tweet here. And this is what I said. Actually, I'm going to have to open this all the way up because I say a lot here. So, I quote tweeted the same thing. Where are we at? 300. So I quoted tweeted this. I said, I have zero pity and sympathy for this clown. No one should have pity for a person who got in bed with racist fascists like Ben Shapiro and the Daily Wire. And now those racist fascists have come for her. Her whole career was built on shucking and jiving to make white fragility feel, I should have said comfortable, but I said okay. And we all know what GTFOH stands for. If you don't, get the fuck out of here. So I don't have any sympathy for her. If this was a firing, I have zero sympathy for people. And this is also goes with Social Democrats and AOC. I have zero sympathy for Cori Bush. You chose to get in bed with imperialist goons, and now those imperialist goons are coming after you. Sorry. Same with the Reject Apex movement. Get the fuck out of here. Imagine this. And let me put this because this may clarify you for better. Let's put it out of the context. Let's put it in this context. If a black person, like on the Dave Chappelle comedy sketch, if you ever seen the Dave Chappelle comedy sketch where he's a blind black guy and he's blind and he's a white supremacist because he doesn't know he's black. So that black guy joins the KKK and he's saying all the right stuff and they're not going after him. But then he says something out of line of what they believe. they come after him, and I'm supposed to feel sorry for that guy? The black KKK member? Fuck out of here. I don't think so. I don't think so. Now let's go back to some other items. I got a lot to cover on here. Not a lot, but a decent amount. Let's see how we can get through here. So I'm going to get to some more reaction first. And here is Nick. And let's read Nick's tweet. Breaking, Candace Owens fired from the Daily Wire. MAGA and the right wing sold out free speech to Israel. This should serve as a wake-up call to people who don't understand the threat Zionism poses to the rights of Americans. And if you didn't remember, and here, actually, let me read his whole thread. Apparently, this was unexpected from Candace. After all the crazy shit Candace has said, this is what got her fired. Candace will be okay financially, but Zionism is a giant threat to the financial security of Americans because countless ordinary people been fired for saying, oops, let me get all of this. Has been fired for saying the same stuff Candace said. Let's see if there's more. Candace Owens spent years fear-mongering about cancel culture on the left, only to be canceled by her friends on the right. Isn't that irony there? That is some beautiful irony, I must say. Let's go to the next reaction here. The reactions are funny. That's why I want to kind of get through them. Here's another one from Nick here. And then I'll get to another one. It says, the funniest thing about Candace Owens getting fired is she was far from a radical on Palestine. This is what I was saying. She was decent. She didn't affirm Palestinian rights to self-defense. This is the point that I was making. She was more not pro-Palestinian. She was more against what Israel's doing, not necessarily pro-Palestinian, if you get what I'm saying. And Nick is saying it here. She didn't affirm Palestinian rights to self-defense. She didn't denounce Israel as terrorist state that doesn't deserve to exist. She simply said she weeps for Palestinian children dying, just like everyone else dying, and we shouldn't be funding such mass death. This is what got her canceled by Zionists. This is how far gone these Zionist traitors are. Another spot-on analysis by Nick. Let's go to some other reaction. That's mine. We'll skip Nick's because he said something. Here is oops, okay, now we go back. Here is JB's reaction to this. He says, I guess Candace Owens went a little too far. The call from Smully was answered. They care more about Zionist voices than black voices. I hope Candace Owens sees this as a teachable moment. And let's get into that, because we can't talk about her firing without talking about the last sort of spat over Israel that she's been having. And that's with Rabbi Smully. So let's pivot to some of that. So let's pivot to some of the Rabbi Smully. Hang on one second here. And then I'm going to show you those. So okay, so let's listen to this one. Man, it's 3 of them. I don't want to listen to all of these. I think it's this one. So I'm gonna try to see if I can guess which one is the right one. So this is the one I think it is. Again, this is Smully.
Careful, Candace. A lot of this is real defamation and libel. You're treading in pretty forbidden grounds, but I think your only defense, if this ever becomes a major legal issue, is that you're really betraying yourself as emotionally and intellectually unbalanced. But why has it come out in the direction of a global Jewish conspiracy, that we Jews control Hollywood, that we Jews are trying to bring down black people? Let me be clear. Candace Owens made her name because she was a conservative. Now she's engaging in pure identity politics. Why did I call her out over her love for Kanye West? Not because she was defending America's foremost anti-Semite, not because she was defending someone who said he's going DEFCON 3 against the Jews, not because she was defending someone who combined a swastika with a Magen David, not because she was defending someone who said he loves Hitler. Loves Hitler. Remember, Hitler murdered 10,000 Jews a day and gassed 1.5 million Jewish children. No, I came after her because she's black. Talk about the most disgusting excuses for your vile behavior. Candace, this man is up in my living room every single day at the top of that list, Martin Luther King. That you would disgrace the African-American community by saying that being black is an excuse to be an anti-Semite. Don't use your blackness as an excuse to be an anti-Semite. The black community is a righteous community. It is a just community. It's a community that we march.
So I just decided just to play a little bit of each one, because this spat with Candace Owens, do we think was a contributing factor to this departure? What do you say in the audience, in the chat? I'll throw your comments up. This is the question for the chat. Let's just start doing this. Question for the chat. Do you think Rabbi Smully himself, or at least the interaction, the going back and forth, contributed to the Daily Wire and Candace Owens finally saying, okay, this is it? Tell me what you think in the comments. I'll put them up as we listen to the second video from Rabbi Smully in this back and forth with Candace Owens.
Hi, everyone. I'm speaking to you from my home. When you walk into my living room, this is the first thing you see. Picture Martin Luther King and then Elie Wiesel, my two great social justice heroes. Elie Wiesel, of course, because the greatest witness to the Holocaust and genocide, and Martin Luther King, because he was the greatest American of the 20th century who restored America to its founding principles that every human being is created in the image of God, and that all human beings are equal, and God loves them all equally. Muslims, Jews, atheists, agnostics, Buddhists, Hindus, Protestants, Muslims, Jews, conservatives, liberals. We in America have begun to hate each other, and people are fomenting hate. One of those people is Candace Owens, who's been on a rant in what can only be described as a complete nervous breakdown over the past 24 hours against me and my daughter, Rachel. She actually is a misogynist, Candace Owens, besides being an anti-Semite. I'll get to that in a moment. She calls my daughter a hag. She has to say that. She engages in the most disgusting ad hominem attacks. I had no issue with Candace Owens. I had met her once. My issue with Candace Owens began when Kanye West became America's foremost anti-Semite and said that he's going DEFCON 3 against the Jews and how much he loves Hitler. And the only person to defend him and say that it's okay for him to say this was Candace Owens. She was unrelenting. You're allowed to say that you love Hitler, and you can get away with it because Candace Owens will protect you. So we started calling her out on that, and then she just got worse and worse. Circumcision was an act of mutilation against babies. Then October 7th came, and of course, she wouldn't even condemn the barbarity, the butchery, the gang rapes of Jewish women, the decapitations of Jewish babies. She said that she would have to think about it to see which side was right. Was it Hamas? Was it Israel? And then we knew this woman sees Jewish life as worthless. And of course, we called her out on it, because never again means never again. You know what her defense is? Her defense is that because she's black, anyone who calls her out and calls out her anti-Semitism is a racist. Talk about engaging in the most disgusting identity politics. Now, the media is saying that I'm calling for the Daily Wire to fire her. I'm doing no such thing. Let me be clear. I don't control the Daily Wire. And I don't know what the legal ramifications are. What I'm saying is that Ben Shapiro, who wears a yarmulke and is a proud pro-Israel person, and the Daily Wire is supposed to be conservative, how does this all make sense? How do they have an anti-Semite on the air, someone who cannot even condemn Hamas? Some of the biggest Jew haters on earth, at least on October 7th, condemn Hamas, but not Candace Owens. If the Daily Wire is conservative, how do they have someone who's now defending her anti-Semitism by saying it's because since she has black skin, she's allowed to condemn Jews and you can't call her out on it because you're a racist? Isn't that identity politics? Isn't that the exact opposite of conservatism? So if she can't be fired, there's nothing to do with me, and I'm not calling for her to be fired. I'm saying, Ben Shapiro, why are you so silent? How have you been silent about all this?
And then he woke up today and said, I'm not going to be silent anymore, Rabbi Smully. Smelly. Rabbi Smelly. I'm going to go with that. Somebody said that in the comments, that the way I say it, it sounds like I'm saying Rabbi Smelly. Let's go with that. Rabbi Smelly is what we're going to call him. But I wanted to play the part where he talks about calling for her to be fired at the Daily Wire. Now, this video was made several weeks ago. So just let me give the date, March 9th. So that's 2 weeks ago that this video was made, March 9th. And 2 weeks later, a little bit less than 2 weeks later, she's fired. That's kind of how it went. And now, where is it? I want to go to now, because this I'm gonna get okay right here. Here is Sabby. Yeah, this is the one I wanted to go to. So let's listen to Sabby kind of break down the situation with Rabbi Smully and Candace.
She actually issued an apology to Muslims for the way that she may have treated them or they were treated by other Americans in this country after September 11.
And so first I want to say, just like to all Muslims growing up during my time in America, I am sorry on behalf of America for the way that you were treated.
Listen to what she says about Black people, though.
There's just this weird, almost a fairy tale like story of we were all kings and queens, and then the evil white man came and hunted onto Africa and took us in chains, and slavery, that's when slavery began. And it's so purposefully diluted, right?
If Candace Owens can call out and see the oppression of the Palestinian people, if she can make the apology to Muslim community for the way that she treated them in the past and the opinions that she had about them, why is it that she can't do that in reference to Black people?
Because Candace Owens is getting paid by the type of white audience that likes to hear Black people say white racist shit, but when it comes out of Black people's mouths, it makes them feel like, oh, I'm not racist. That's who Candace Owens has built her audience. It's no different than a Larry Elders in California. He's the same type of person who it's their whole or part of their identity is that I'm the Black person that's telling Black people that you have been irresponsible. It's you, not the white. She's that person. And Larry Elders plays that same role that Sabby points out here. So, all right. So thank you, Sabby. Now let's go to the next point here. I'm doing this from memory, typically, because I wasn't planning on coming on today, but I'm doing this from memory as far as the order. I'm trying to remember the order that I have. So let's this next one. This is Dave Chappelle, kind of talking about the same thing.
Candace Owens. That rotten bitch. She's the worst. I can't think of a worse way to make money. She's the most articulate idiot I've ever seen in my fucking life. She's so articulate. She can tell you how fucking stupid she is precisely. And she told George Floyd's rap record on the internet, oh, he was this, he did that, and he's a drug addict, and he's not a hero. And why does the Black community make him a hero? Why do you choose him?
So I just wanted to play that briefly from Dave Chappelle as I kind of pivot to some of her. Let me say it this way. These are the reasons why I feel like now I'm going into the reasons why people like Candace Owens don't deserve any pity from us. If this was a firing, if this was a departure that was forced on her, you know, when they say you resign, but it was kind of a forced resignation. Like, I have no pity for that because of things like this. Now, the same people that got rid of her are in this room. You made the decision to team up with these clowns. You made that decision. They were clowns then. This one incident doesn't make them clowns. They've been clowns. So let's listen to Candace.
Hear from Speaker Pelosi herself, speaking in front of the Capitol at a Congressional Black Caucus presser. Thank you, George Floyd, for sacrificing your life for justice.
Wow.
Because of you and because of thousands, millions of people around the world who came out for justice, your name will always be synonymous for justice.
Oh, wow.
That's a religion.
Now, when we heard that, we had a visceral reaction too, but a different visceral reaction. They're reacting to what Nancy Pelosi is saying in a way that you're saying too much of a good thing about it. Our reaction was, how dare you use his name to fund the police? That was our reaction. So similar, but different at the same time. Let's see what Candace Owens says here.
That's a religious cult.
I was going to say, did she then say, give us
Disgusting.
This is literal.
He was a drug addict.
Yeah.
Okay, he was a drug addict. He abused women. He abused men. This is disgusting. That is, it actually grosses me out. Do we have no better examples to put forward in the Black community? When you think of the word justice, you think of George Floyd. I mean, how far we have fallen since Martin Luther King.
This is unwatchable coonery. I found the video and I watched 10 seconds just to know that what it was about, and I couldn't watch the rest. This is top level coonery here. To pretend that George Floyd became a martyr based on his life history instead of how he was killed. Why is the critique even about George Floyd? He's the one who's dead. But as Sabby said in the video, this is her role here. Or that's the question. Why can't she have the same sympathy for Black people? Because that's her audience is white, and it's a particular white. It's the same white people that's in this room with her. She know where her bread is buttered. She know where she gets her checks. If she has to sell out a bunch of Negroes, she don't give a fuck.
It honestly makes me sick. It makes me sick. It's so upsetting to me as a Black person to see what is coming out as representative of the Black community, what we are told we should be holding up. Do you think those words would be written when Clarence Thomas dies? Do you think those words would be written when Thomas Sowell dies? Do you think those words would be written when Dr. Condoleezza Rice dies?
She said Clarence Thomas and Condoleezza Rice. You mean the Condoleezza Rice that's responsible for thousands of deaths? That Condoleezza Rice? You mean the Clarence Thomas who's as corrupt as there can be? Who is she talking to? Who in the Black community thinks either one of those people should be looked up to? But there's white people who say those are good Blacks. That's who she's speaking to. This is why this person deserves no pity or sympathy. She made a deal and came in and said, I will be okay to shuck and jive and say all this bullshit. But then when she doesn't want to go fall in line with their talking points, they fucking decapitate her figuratively, and we're supposed to be sympathetic to her? I think not. I got more. I don't even need to play all of that. Let's listen to another video of hers on the same topic, and she is pretty disgusting. So let's listen to her here.
Hello and welcome. And we can just get right into this because you know what we are going to cover today. We obviously have to cover the George Floyd trial conclusion, which is that Derek Chauvin is guilty on all counts. And I have to appreciate people that were trying to create a pressure campaign for me on Twitter saying, I wonder what Candace is going to say. Even Republicans agreed that this was the right call. I don't care who agrees that this was the right. I don't care if it's a Republican. I don't care if it's a Democrat. I don't care if it's a white person. I don't care if it's a Black person. I am not so much of an intellectual coward that because the mob decides something, because the lie about George Floyd and the way that he lived his life has become so big that we just have to now accept it as the truth. And believe me, this is a lie.
Now, you might be confused. Like, what is she this is her response to Derek Chauvin being found guilty. Why aren't you talking about the trial? You know, the actual subject matter? This is the lane that she occupies, like Larry Elder. It's not only they have harsh criticisms for Black people in the Black community, they go out of their way. They have to prove I hate Black people, like you guys that are listening to me. It's like they literally pick topics on purpose to criticize Black people, Black community, Black thought. That's a lane. And she's gladly playing it because it's very lucrative. It's very lucrative to play to white fragility, especially people who are racist, who want to play like they're not. So to hear a Black person say some of the same things that they believe, it washes away their racist sort of guilt. And then they go, here's $50, Candace. Nick says it all the time. We could do, if we were in this to be grifters, we would do what Candace Owens does because it's very lucrative for a Black person. Very lucrative to do what she does. Let's go to another video of Candace. So apparently she's up in arms that people want to say nice things about George Floyd after he's dead. You know how people do all the time? You know how they did that with Henry Kissinger? I wonder if she came out and was going ham like this on him at that time. And don't forget this one from her with Kanye West, White Lives Matter. But somebody in my comments talking about people change. Has she changed? There's a couple of other, there's another video of her right here that I wanted to play.
But why are we pretending that this criminal should be upheld as a citizen, as a martyr in Black America? A martyr for a fake narrative, by the way. Police brutality, racially motivated police brutality is a myth, okay?
Who is she talking to? Who would listen to those words and go, let me continue to listen? Let me retweet. Who? It's not just any white person. And what type of white person? Do you think she doesn't understand that people were memorializing George Floyd because he was killed and not because of what he did while he was living? Does she get that, or is she just pretending? You notice she doesn't talk about that part.
If you want to hang up posters of criminals on your wall and talk about them as your martyrs, do it. Do it. You can do it. Kobe Bryant was my idol. Okay, I'll keep a photo of Kobe Bryant. You can keep one of George Floyd and pretending.
Are you talking about the Kobe Bryant that was taken to court for sexual battery? Is that the one you're talking about, Candace? Is that who you're talking about, Candace? So she has Kobe Bryant, which, I mean, but more egregiously, she has Clarence Thomas and Condoleezza Rice.
Pretend he was an upstanding human being that just once or twice put a gun across a pregnant woman's belly. Could you imagine that woman right now? That Black woman, by the way, right? Watching everybody pretend this person was an upstanding human being who just at the age of 42 and 5 prison stints was going to get his life together. But why are we?
Why does it bother you if that's the case? Why does that bother you that a person who, let's go by her, what she's saying, was a bad person and then he's turned his life? Why does that bother you? Anyway, that was me reading a comment and making a decision not to cover that, not to put that comment up, because it would have just made this a lot longer. Now, here's one of the final videos we get to. This is her responding to her departing ways. She actually comes out with a video. So this is today. Earlier today, she comes out with a response video. You want the reason why she's happy? Because she knows she's on a new venture and about to get paid. And she's seeing all the people come to her defense, even after all her crazy shit. Like fucking clowns.
Hey guys, it's Candace. The rumors are true. I am free. Welcome to my locals page. So much to talk about. Obviously, I'm going to take a couple of weeks here just to rebuild and to refocus and to create something that is actually mine and something that can't be threatened or taken because it belongs to me. I can't tell you enough how much your support has meant to me over the years. We're just getting started. Join the locals page. Obviously, here you can support me and my work as an independent journalist, as an independent podcaster. We're still going to be doing 5 days a week. There'll be tons of announcements coming in the next couple of weeks.
Tell me, and this goes for, tell me, how are you an independent, and this goes for Breaking Points too, how are you an independent journalist when all your views, or 90% of your views, are establishment? You tell me how that's the case. Because this is the thing. This is the thing now. Oh, I'm independent. That means what I'm saying is unbothered by corruption. Is it? Is it, Candace? Breaking Points? It's the same thing as I don't take corporate PAC money. Then why, Squad? Why are you voting in line with people who took corporate PAC money then? Why is that the case? Oh, you're an independent? Then why 70% of the time you vote Republican? How are you an independent? This woman knows she's going to be fine. This woman knows she's about to start making some money hand over fist, and it's going directly to her without anybody else's hand in the pot. Let me make sure I covered everything here. Got that. Got that. Here's a quote from Candace Owens, and it says, quote, "The greatest Holocaust that ever happened was against Christians and what the Bolsheviks did to us." Yeah, she's independent. It was a reason I wanted to show you this other video here. I'm making sure before I show it to you that there's nothing else here. All right, there's nothing else. Okay, so I showed you everything. So now let me show you this. I think this might be the last thing. I'm going to bring up this article, but this is likely the last. Where is it? Receipt here. Oh, this right here. So, this is what people are liking about her, I guess. Her really is not even advocacy. It's just not a Zionist crazy person. That's it. It's really not pro-Palestinian. But let's listen to this exchange on her show.
I believe that what happened on October 7th is a uniquely dark form of evil on a whole other level, in every way, shape, or form of evil than anything that is happening in Gaza. Do you agree with my?
So the guy says, what happened on October 7th, and let's just go with the high number they started with, 1,500, 1,400 people killed on October 7th. That's uniquely evil. And it puts you in a different category than what's happening in Gaza. So 50,000+ dead Palestinians is not a unique evil. It's not on the same level as October 7th. That's the framing he presents to her. And this is the reason they're saying we're going to take her off. This is her reply.
Thing that is happening in Gaza. Do you agree with my statement or disagree? I don't need explanations. Do you agree with me or disagree?
I have said to you 1,000 times, I feel like what you are asking me to do right now, I'm looking at the cost of life. This is how I analyze things.
You can't agree. You're not going to agree with me.
I am uncomfortable with the amount of innocent life that is lost right now in Gaza.
So you're not going to agree with me. Okay, great. Let's move on.
So she's just uncomfortable with all these deaths. That's all. I'm uncomfortable. You know how when you're uncomfortable and you're in a long ride and you got to use the restroom? Like that. I'm uncomfortable. That literally amounts to what her advocacy has been, and people are praising her for this.
Let's move on because there's other stuff. Because there's another piece in that
because
article.
Part of it feels like you want me to weigh, like, is Jewish innocent life?
No.
Like, this is like morons talking to morons about a serious issue, and they want people to take them serious. I can't take her seriously. So this will be one of the few times I cover Candace Owens. She's just not a serious person to me. She's not serious whatsoever. Like, she's like a Tulsi Gabbard, unserious to me. So it is what it is. Hit that like button. 400 people. I'm sorry, 800 is the target. Here is a super chat. Thank you, Warren West. Reply, Coonery. What's your take on Tyler Perry? Yeah, he's a top coon. Tyler Perry is projected and pushed up because he does super capitalism and has been successful at super capitalism, not having a great idea. And the reason I know this is because my brother is a comedy writer. He works for Chris Rock. And my brother wrote several episodes for a couple of Tyler Perry movies and told me, gave me the lowdown. But I already knew this. Tyler Perry has his operations in Atlanta to avoid union labor. Built his studio where he built it to avoid unions. Tyler Perry, like when a show records one episode, he's recording multiple episodes in the same time period that one, because he's trying to extract more value out of the same time, get more labor out of the time, but doesn't give the actors more money for that at all and underpays them. And he's built his empire on that. And white people love him because all they see is, wow, this black person has did real good at this super capitalism. And he did it all on the backs of black people exploiting blacks. So yeah, Tyler Perry's terrible. Talk about JB rent more important than this crap. We did shout out JB's a fundraiser. When did I do it? Yesterday they did it. I did it last time I streamed. So there you go. Thank you for the super chat. That was Corey Scott. This one, thank you for this super chat. Ed Royce, Candace Owens, redemption arc. Again, you can redeem yourself. Redeeming has nothing to do with whether or not she should be in front of a mic spewing ideas to have influence. Those are two different things in my view. And then the other ones I've already read. So, all right. So I think that's all of the super chats. Thank you for the super chats. And don't forget, hit that like button. Get us to 800 likes. I forgot to read that article, but it was all right. I had a couple of articles up about it, but I think the articles were unneeded, and that's why I didn't go to them. Let me see. I got something on. All right, so let me shout out a couple of things just to do a couple of announcements on my way out. Don't forget, tomorrow is Nick at noon. Our website is there, revolutionaryblackout.com. Make sure you check it out. You can find out a bunch of cool sort of things on our website, from our chapters to the RBN library renovation pictures, to our summits, to some of our outreach pictures, our social media icons along the right side. You can become a member on our Patreon here. Some other pictures, our story. You can check all of this out. Our latest clips are also down here. Emails are down here at the bottom also. So lots of information you can get on our website. So make sure you check that out. And another thing is right there in the top right-hand corner, you see it says RBN merch. When you click on RBN merch, it takes you to our store. And I'll just show you a couple of things. Oops, did I close that? I just closed that. 1 second. I'm going to show you a couple of things here on our merch store, and that is our mugs. Been trying to push our mugs. So let me show you our mugs here. Oops. Here we go. Took a while to open. So our mugs, we've been selling a lot of the unserious mugs lately since we've been promoting these, but here goes some of our mugs. We got the regular signature RBN mug, the regular logo here. Can I make this bigger? Let's make this bigger. And then you see the unserious mug in the middle. We're going to get a deeply unserious added too, and a couple of bunch of other designs added. We have the abolish the police mug, and then you can get some gift cards. And then here's another abolish mug here. And then vote blue is for vote blue no matter who is for morons mug we have here. And then another ACAB mug. And then we have the lesser of two evils is what got us here mug. And then this one here is a post-duopoly voter mug. Then we got a Democrats and Republicans can kiss my ass mug. A NATO is a terrorist mug, and then class warfare is needed. You can get these same images, these same graphics on tote bags. You can get them on tote bags too. So mugs and tote bags, same 11 graphics. You can also get it on clothing, t-shirts, tank tops, hoodies, sweatshirts. All of those you can get on. So let's click on our hoodie here. Did I click it? Yeah. This is the one of the items. Nick has the most RBN merch of all the members. You can get this one in gray. You can get it in black. You can get it in white. You can get it in green. You can get it in red. So all those colors you can get are RBN signature. So check that out on our website. Hit that like button on your way out. Thank you for joining me for this short. The stream was on for an hour and 45 minutes, but I've only been on camera for an hour and a half, so I kept it at the 90 minutes. Thank you for watching. I'm going to fade to the back, and let's see, what do I have to end with here? Let's give you guys something good to end on. 1 second here. Yeah, let's give you. Man, there's so much stuff. All right, so I don't want to get distracted and do another one. So let's just play this final. Oh, here's another one. And there's so much nonsense that Candace Owens has said, and I'm going to end with this one. This is what Candace Owens was talking about slavery. So just to give you one more receipt, and this is from Majority Report.
So Candace Owens has a take on the.
They have a lot of content on Candace Owens because they do a lot of culture war stuff. So she's one of the people they talk about a lot. So watch this as an outro video. Nonsense from Candace Owens, she's not a person that deserves sympathy or pity from us from what she's doing right now. All right, everybody. All right, so great. Thank you for watching. I'm going to fade to the back. Thank you for watching. Check out this video.
So Candace Owens has a take on the recent death of Queen Elizabeth, and you'll be shocked to know that she has taken it upon herself to defend British colonialism within this context. This is her job, and she does it, I guess, wholeheartedly. Here she is being an apologist for colonialism for her white conservative audience.
But the real truth of the reason why people hate the Queen has nothing to do with the colonization. It has something to do, which, by the way, just to be clear, the Brits invading Africa actually represents, and this is going to get me in trouble, but it was, if you look at how forward it brought the African colonies, it ended up being a net positive. Now, this is, of course, it's going to get me in trouble because people somehow think that Africans were living happily ever after and things were great, and then the horrible English, British descended upon and murdered everybody, and the French suddenly murdered everybody, and that just isn't the truth. Obviously, the African nations had slavery, just like the European nations had slavery. Wow. So it's an evil that was not started, did not begin in Europe, actually. It can actually be traced back to Muslim origins.
All right, can you pause it, please? I'm sorry. There's a lot here. There is a lot here.
This is Daily Stormer stuff, basically.
I mean, this is white supremacist talking points that the if we could just bring it down really quick, like the British went to Africa to liberate them. They were primitive and they were not able to construct their own societies. And the British and the European white saviors went there to liberate them, as opposed to like carving up the entire continent in a haphazard way that would only be beneficial for capital, as opposed to like the explicit purpose of going there to enslave and traffic Africans. That was a net positive.
The Royal African Company, which was how the colonies got their slaves for about 100 plus years.
What she's arguing has never not been the argument in favor of colonialism. The idea that the primitive peoples of the world were rather savages and necessitated the yoke of the English, the yoke of like the Christian missionaries, the yoke of the Dutch, et cetera, has always been a talking point for racists and pro-colonialists since the beginning of colonialism. The idea that slavery existed triangle slave trade, new world slave trade, is also a fact that people sort of misinterpret, because everyone knows that. Everyone's seen The Prince of Egypt. Like, speaking about animated movies, though not Disney, we've all seen The Prince of Egypt. What they don't like to acknowledge is that American slavery and American European slavery was inherently different from the slavery and the slave practices that existed previously in the world. Like a chattel race-based scientific race-based slavery was an invention of like the New World and like the post-rational, quote unquote, post-modernity Europe. So yeah, it was different, not different in name, but different in like all of the other qualities to it, in the sense that it created a racialized caste system.
Yeah, exactly. And set the world economy on fire with all that labor able to be exploited, right? Like that's how the Western hemispheres were settled. That all the work was being done by African slaves, often, or indentured servants, and they were all had it's a completely different thing than tribal slavery.
And it's a net positive for, say, like Europe and the Europeans there, because they both were able.
Those jewels on the Queen.
That on one hand we exploited free labor from slaves and trafficked human beings and murdered them and raped them as a way to construct our society and extract their wealth for without returning it to them. But on the other hand, we ended up feeling kind of.
The ceasefire resolution that Russia and China just vetoed at the UN isn't actually a ceasefire. The resolution the US proposed says that there's an imperative for an immediate ceasefire, but it never actually calls on Israel to stop its massacre. The corporate media is reporting that Russia and China have just vetoed a ceasefire, but don't actually tell you that Russia and China vetoed the resolution precisely because the ambiguous language would allow Israel to continue its massacre. And that's exactly what the US and Israel wanted. They proposed this resolution knowing it would be vetoed, so every headline in all the major news networks would say Russia and China vetoed a ceasefire. This is part of a clear strategy emerging within the US ruling class to the narrative by making it look like the US wants a ceasefire and that it's the Palestinians who are blocking it. A few weeks ago, Kamala Harris came out and announced that she wanted to see a ceasefire in Gaza, which shocked everyone. The video circulated like wildfire, and the corporate media was running headlines praising Kamala Harris, saying, Kamala Harris has proposed a ceasefire. But if you actually watch the full clip, Kamala Harris says immediately after that she's calling for a 6-week temporary ceasefire, one that's already on the table.
There must be an immediate ceasefire for at least the next 6 weeks, which is what is currently on the table.
The ceasefire proposal she's referring to is the Israeli one, which would pause the fighting for 6 weeks, during which Israel would get all of its prisoners back, and then the genocidal invasion of Rafah would continue. The ceasefire that Kamala Harris, Joe Biden, Gavin Newsom, and all of these US diplomats have come out in support of isn't actually a ceasefire that would end the war. It's literally Israel's exact negotiating position being repackaged as a ceasefire, one that would pause the fighting long enough so that Israel can get all of its people out, which would then allow Israel to decimate Rafah without having to worry about any domestic backlash. Israel has been clear from day one that their goal is the total takeover of Gaza and the destruction of the resistance. So the word ceasefire is essentially being co-opted by the Biden administration here. And we have to start asking what people mean when they use the word ceasefire. The Biden administration is trying to confuse people by saying they support a ceasefire, but the ceasefire they're proposing is completely different from the ceasefire the vast majority of the world wants, which is a permanent end to the genocide.